Episode 8 of all Beatles songs ranked. We're at number, let me have a look, 108. It's another John Lennon song about being sleepy or wanting to sleep, and the song is called I'm Only Sleeping. One of the first real psychedelic songs, because it's not really about sleeping, it's also about having a trip, of course, and it's a great song. It's one of the first two songs by the Beatles, and maybe of old time, with backwards guitars, and it's one of those great Revolver songs that make that album that colorful. You know, it's an album with, it's one of the first, or it's the first Beatles album where you've got like 8 different types of music on one album, and this is one of those great songs. 107 is The End, which is like the last Beatles song. Of course, Let It Be came out half a year later, but on the last album they recorded when they were together, it's the last song. And of course, that's great, as every Beatle fan thinks it's a great ending to the story with the iconic last lyrics. In the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. It's classic, can't be better, and it's a great song, of course. And each of the 4 Beatles gets to play a solo. Each of the 3 guitarists plays the last guitar solo, and Ringo plays his only solo ever on drums in his career. That's The End. 106 is after the last song. They made 2 more songs in the 90s, Free as a Bird and Real Love, and I also decided to include them here because why not? And 106 is Real Love, the second single from the Anthology project, based on a John Lennon demo from, I think, 1977. Yoko gave those tapes with Free as a Bird and Real Love to Paul, and the Freetles, as they were called, Paul, George and Ringo, made finished a complete song of those 2 songs. They also tried a third one. They tried, what was it called? Now and Then was the first song given to them, because there were 3 anthology CDs, and it was planned that Now and Then was would be the single from the third, but George Harrison hated that song, and so they never recorded it. But Real Love was Real Love was the very, very, very last song the Beatles ever recorded and put out, and I think it's good. You know, it's number 106, not too bad. After 25 years of being split up, and also a very touching music video. I think, you know, there's 1 second when Paul McCartney embraces George Harrison, and as you may know, Paul and George, that wasn't really there were many tensions, you know, after, you know, one could say after 1966, this was a very fractured relationship. So it was nice. That's probably the last video footage ever, the last film footage ever of them together, and that's nice, the hug, you know, when Paul hugs George. So I really like Real Love for that reason. 105 is No Reply, the first song on Beatles for Sale. I think I've mentioned it before, probably the most underrated Beatles album ever, and this is probably the most underrated album opener ever by the Beatles. Great song, great lyrics, great melody, great vocal harmonies by John and Paul. It's one of those almost perfect pop songs. You know, now number 105, from now on, I could say perfect pop song to probably almost any of the songs. And this is one of them. 104 is Carry That Weight. Maybe that's a strange ranking. I don't really agree with myself here at the moment. Again, Carry That Weight isn't really a song. It's like a segment from one song to the next, from Golden Slumbers to The End. But for some reason, it's really hard to rank the medley, the individual songs on the medley. But it's very important. Carry That Weight is very important to combine Golden Slumbers with the end. But now that I'm reading the list, maybe change. It would be fair to change Carry That Weight with the end. The end is probably the better entity from those two songs. But anyway, 103 is Fool on the Hill, or Devil on the Hill. Fool on the Hill or Devil on the Hill. Paul McCartney ballad from Magical Mystery Tour. Great song, very good song. What can I tell you about that song? In the movie Magical Mystery Tour, they filmed that in one of my favorite places in the world, in Nice, in the south of France. I often, and I don't think that's very interesting for you, but for me, I'm often on holiday. I'm often on holiday there, so I know the place very well. But of course, that's not very interesting to you. Number 102 is the very first George Harrison song on a Beatles album ever. Don't Bother Me from With the Beatles. It's very underrated. I think by George himself in interviews, he put that song down, and he described it as a song where he tried to find out how to write a song, but I think it's a very good song. It's, as you can tell, to me it's better than many other of his songs. So it's a very good first song. I think it's definitely better than the first song John or Paul wrote, probably. So very good first song. But he wrote it when he was sick, I think, in the summer of '63. They played, that was the time when the Beatles already were on the verge of becoming very, very successful. They had the first #1 at the time, but still, because Brian Epstein, the manager, he wasn't at that time really very professional. The Beatles were basically the first time he ever managed a band, and so in summer of '63 they still played very small places, and they played a very small place in the south of England, and George Harrison was sick and in bed, and for some reason he was inspired to write Don't Bother Me, which is a blueprint for those more those more kind of pessimistic George Harrison songs, those typical songs. Don't Bother Me is almost like a trademark. I think it's almost like a George Harrison catchphrase, that song title. 101 is Magical Mystery Tour, from Magical Mystery Tour. It's great psychedelic song from the great Summer of Love. I really liked the Magical Mystery Tour movie, by the way. It was a kind of flop at the time when it came out, but why was it a flop? It was a flop because it was a TV movie that was broadcasted on Christmas Day '67 by the BBC, and the people who reviewed that movie were, of course, those were like very conservative British newspapers, and they expected something else for a Christmas movie. So I don't think you can really say it was a flop, because it's a very artistic movie. It was a great statement by the Beatles, and many people like Steven Spielberg were impressed by that movie when it came out, so it was an inspiration to them. The reason why it's always regarded a flop was because a newspaper like the London Times thought it wasn't really a good Christmas movie, which it wasn't. So I think the movie is great. Now number 100, now we're in the top 100, is I Should Have Known Better from A Hard Day's Night, from the movie A Hard Day's Night. The scene of the movie when they play that song was like the moment George Harrison met his wife Patty, captured on camera, because she was an extra in that scene, and she's one of the girls, of course, in that scene. So I think that's remarkable. That Patty Harrison, one of the big inspirations of pop history. She inspired songs like Layla by Eric Clapton and Something by George Harrison. So very important meeting for pop history, and it's captured in the video performance of I Should Have Known Better. That was episode 8, and from now on we're in top 100. All those forthcoming songs are classics.